Tackling the tumultuous years of the Roman Republic's rise to power in a grand strategy game is no easy task, but Imperator Rome proves Paradox is definitely up to it. This is a game built on columns of interesting internal politics, a fun and involved warfare system, and an enormous detailed map stretching from Ireland to India that makes those in other Paradox games look downright archaic. I can't give nearly as much praise to the interface or the mechanics for tribal nations, unfortunately, but it still may set a new standard for historical grand strategy. Imperator's real-time pausable gameplay is probably most comparable to Europa Universalis 4 at its heart, but it weaves in strong ideas from many other games from the studio. Population units from Victoria, characters and traits from Crusader Kings, and army automation from Hearts of Iron. There's a lot to keep track of, even for a Paradox game, to the point where it can feel a bit messy. But Crusader Kings 2 remains my favorite strategy game ever, partly because it's messy. This feels like a return to a messier age of Paradox games, which is honestly refreshing in a way, except that the interface doesn't keep up with the times. I was particularly frustrated at the lack of a ledger, a feature most other Paradox games have that allows you to access a lot of info about the world at a glance. Too much important info is buried deep in easy-to-miss menus, like factors that determine whether or not the Senate will approve a declaration of war. When I reviewed EU4, the interface got some of my highest praise. In Imperator, it's a weak point instead. And Imperator doesn't seem especially interested in holding your hand either. The game tutorial leaves out some key information, coming across kind of like a driver's ed course that only teaches you what all the pedals, knobs, and switches in the cab do, but not how to parallel park or merge onto a highway. Once you do get up to speed, though, Imperator treats you to the most involved and interesting combat system I've seen in a genre that's usually dominated by crashing giant balls of infantry into each other and winning or losing based on who can bring the greatest numbers to bear. In addition to a plethora of troop types that ranges from infantry to chariots to camels to elephants, each army has access to a set of stances that can counter or be countered by others. Their effectiveness is determined by the troop types in an army, so you can tell what tactics an opponent is most likely to use by scouting out how their army is composed. So it's tactically interesting and not just pure rock, paper, scissors. The map also lends itself to interesting warfare, with a density of traversable terrain far above and beyond most other grand strategy games. Fighting across the Alps involves a frigid slog through narrow passes that are just begging to be the scene of a brutal ambush or desperate last stand. The Nile region is modeled as the ancients would have seen it, a narrow highway along the banks of the great river, surrounded on all sides by expansive desert where only death awaits. The strategic and tactical depth makes it hard for me to go back to a game like EU4, and it looks gorgeous as well. Internal politics are also a highlight. In the Roman Republic, each consul you take control of will have to gather support for war declarations, law changes, and other actions in the Senate by courting its 5 factions. That adds a really fun element of scheming and politicking that keep you busy when your legions aren't on the march. Tribes are required to keep their clan chiefs happy, and monarchies are in a constant struggle to secure the succession against greedy pretenders. Any of these 3 governments can experience a thrilling civil war if they allow powerful rivals to get out of hand. Some governments seem to have gotten more attention than others, though. Tribes in particular have a lot of issues right now. Clan retinues, which are raised automatically by your clan chiefs, can't be split up, and that caused some problems when I was playing as Tibet, and the retinues got so large that they were bleeding away men to environmental attrition even under ideal conditions. Because I couldn't really do anything about this other than reforming out of a tribal society, I was constantly stuck with low or no manpower. There's also a mechanic that lets some tribes migrate across the map, but it doesn't work particularly well yet, and can lead to some of your armies getting stuck hundreds of miles from your new homeland until you tediously negotiate military access treaties. Knowing Paradox, these fringe societies will likely be fleshed out and tuned up with patches and DLC down the line, but for now they're an inferior experience to playing as Rome, Carthage, or any of the large Greek powers. The amount of stuff crammed into Imperator Rome is equal parts impressive and daunting. It can come across at some times as rich and rewarding, and other times as crowded and chaotic. I suspect I'll still be discovering new things about it even 100 hours in, but it's a testament to the strong warfare and politics, and to the outstanding map that I'm eager to play another 100 hours or more. I only wish I didn't have to struggle with a subpar interface and undercooked tribal mechanics along the way. For more strategy, check out our reviews of Anno 1800, Tropico 6, and Stellaris Console Edition. And for everything else, stick with IGN.
Introducing the all-new Up It News!
Don't touch it.
What's wrong with you?
Get corn snack.
Game sucks. Bring it back.
Up at Noon returns to IGN.com and YouTube this April.